Lasatovich, and I'm with Central Valley Talk. Today is Wednesday. We have your show from a show from 4 to 5. Today the show it's going to be a lot of fun. Um, Date Me Solutions is the sponsor of the show. It's my show, and what we're going to talk to about today is looking for love and for fun in all the right places. Because if you're new to dating, it's like, where do we go? How do we go? Anyway, go to some fundraising events, go to some restaurants, look at your hobbies. You know what I did is I used to be a jock. Can't tell it now, but I used to be. And so I went back and I got fit and I started doing things like playing pickleball. I started, playing golf. And I kind of found myself in the process. I was able to find some really cool people, to do some things with. Now, the single thing is kind of like a networking thing. It isn't mad, passionate love the first time somebody, you see someone that you think is right. So go to concerts. Go to wine tastings. One of the great things about Date Me Solutions is I have some small events. And you have to look at those as a method of creating your own singles network and getting to know some of the people in the group. And some of them are going to like to do some of the things you like to do. Maybe they want to go to a concert. Maybe they want to go on a trip. Guys or girls, they're all a resource. And so this is kind of like, business networking, except it's with potential mates. Churches, I've had some fun experiences with churches. I got into a singles group at one of the churches, and I went to one of their evening events. And they, they put me at a table, and I was surrounded by men. Except they came from a rest home. So, you got to be a good sport, and you got to roll with the punches, and everybody it was fun. But you know what? Dog walking really is not a bad gig. Where I live, there's people walking their dogs all the time, and, the dogs start liking the people, and they make the people come out. And another way to meet people. I know people joke about it, but it has some validity to it. Do we troll in grocery stores? Of course. Of course. I went to a coffee shop. It's one of those chain things. And to meet a date. And so I'm sitting there talking, and I got up to go to the restroom. And so when I came back, this attorney said, the lady behind you gave me her card and says, if you don't want me, she does. So strange things happen in the dating world, and naturally, because the way that happened, I wasn't interested, even if I would have been. Pickup lines. I like to think that there really isn't a pickup line. I like to think that, I'm talking to somebody at a coffee shop, at a grocery store. By the way, my daughter says I make friends at the gas station, so you can't always go by what I'm able to tolerate. But talk to them like they're your friends. Be curious. Find out what they're about. It doesn't have to end in a date or whatever. Just try to open up, and that's not easy for everyone. I get it. But practice, because practice meeting people, because the more you practice, the better you'll get and more comfortable. And I understand some people really sweat asking out for a date and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? If you don't invest your heart in that date, in that idea, if you just look at it kind of like if you were asking about where the bread aisle is, same thing, So don't invest too much. I think it's when we get invested, that's when we get worried, If you're wondering which dating site's good for you, Well, I'm not going to tell you here, but there's good and bad in all of them. Certain age groups, some are more trendy than others. And there's people that, I've met attorneys, I've met influential people from here in the valley, business owners. So, yes, there is a lot of people that you might not really want to date, but if you look hard, yes, there's still some in there, and it's a frustrating process, and so you want to make your profile real, and so hopefully that you can, find someone in there. But if you need some coaching on the other end because you're frustrated, and nobody's writing back to you, and it's a long process. It's not like you join something and Friday night you have a date. If you get a date on Friday night, you might not want that one. So I want to encourage you, if you're single, don't give up. I'm your cheerleader. Go to my website, give me a call, whatever it takes. I'd love to help you get through that process. I want you to date safely. What does that mean? Someone said, well, maybe that means a nice date would have a picnic in the park. Well, not on your first date. Number one is, on your first date, you're going to want to do something that you can do 15 minutes or less. You're not going to really want to lock yourself in there. And because, you may like each other and you may just want to get away. And but as far as safety, go someplace where there's a population. I go to the Fig Garden Village, and I have coffee over there, and then I go for a walk. It's got people that are moving around in there. If I met somebody that was I wasn't comfortable with, there's always someone there that you can get their attention. So one thing against the parks, our parks in this area are beautiful, and yes, they're a nice place to go. However, there's trees, there's bathrooms, and there's other things. So it's just not high enough visibility to do on your like your first or second date. Other things that you might want to know. What do you do if a man or woman acts inappropriately? Well, the way I do it, of course, I like my idea. I tell them that's not appropriate conversation for the first date, and I appreciate it if we can, look at some of their interests or other, activities that they're involved with. But you know what? If they come up with it the second time, I get up, I thank them very much for the opportunity to meet them, and I walk away. If they text you the following day, if they call you the following day, don't respond. There's no way you're not going to make it work anyway. So just save yourself all that pain and frustration. Now, this is a big one, guys and girls. Kiss on the first date. Well, if you kiss on the first date, wait till you get that look, or wait till somebody asks you. In the day of COVID, you don't just do the surprise thing and grab somebody and kiss them. So I think at one point in time it might have been fun or funny, but in this day and age, it is not. And how do you say that you're not interested? Well, first of all, when you're single, many times you don't know what people are going through. You don't know how close to the edge that they are. So I always try to find something, an activity that we don't have in common, or something within me, rather than throw stones at, the person that I dated. So, for example, I'll say, well, one of the things I really look closely at is activity level. Are you a couch potato or are you a marathon runner? If you want a wife that plays tennis with you 5 days a week, I can't do that. If I wanted to, I can't. So if that's important to you and you can catch that gal, go for it. You deserve it, if you can catch it. Or other things that I'll say is, maybe they're interested in old cars. Well, I've been third to an old car before, so I don't do old cars. Or watching football nonstop. Maybe that's not who you are. So there's plenty of ways to let somebody down easy and gently and kindly without finding fault within them. Ways to say you're interested, okay? Because, we're very often, if we're new at this dating thing, we might be nervous. But we do want them to know that we've enjoyed their company, and how are they going to know if we don't tell them? What I usually say, or ways of saying it, we both enjoy volunteering. We both like animals. We both like art. We both like whatever it is. If you're interested in going to the museum at some point in time, hey, I'm interested. So basically, they know that you're interested in going out with them again, and you haven't put any pressure on them because you gave them, a litany of ideas, and you gave them, some places that you're interested in. So another big subject. When is the right time to introduce your family to your new love? Okay? It is not the first week. It may not be the first month, and it may not be in 6 months. Let me tell you why. It's very confusing to small children or even, adolescents. How does this person fit my life? Is he going to be an uncle or who he is? Long and short of it, your family really doesn't want to meet whoever it is you're dating until you kind of happen on somebody that you think is worth keeping. So it'll be a lot easier on you, trust me. Okay, monogamy. How do you handle that? Well, I put it right out there. I'm playing for keeps. If you're not playing for keeps, I'm probably the wrong gal for you. So, in closing, thank you for coming to DateMe.Solutions for my show. Thank you, Lord. Thank you also for Central Valley Talk, and tune in from 4 to 5 on Wednesdays. And keep your chin up. If you need some encouragement, call me, email me, go to my website. I'm here for you. Have a good day.
Aqua Nails Spa is the most luxurious nails and spa salon in Fresno and Clovis. Our staff are friendly, courteous, and highly skilled. Come in and let us pamper you. Located at 1398 Shaw Avenue in Clovis, California, on the southwest corner of Shaw and Sunnyside. Also located at 1850 Herndon Avenue, Suite 111 in Clovis, California. Have dents or dings that need to be removed from your car? Well, look no further. Here at Say Magnifique, we offer paintless dent repair, interior repair, windshield repair, wheel repair, scratch, and automotive touch-ups. A new headlight restoration system guaranteed to never have your headlights dull again. Say Magnifique is a mobile business, and we'll come to you. Reasonable rates guaranteed. Don't hesitate to call 559-704-7525. That's 559-704-7525. Say McNafee, your one-stop auto body shop.
Good afternoon. This is Lynn Lasatovich, and this is Central Valley Talk. Our show is sponsored by it's Date Me Solutions, DateMe.Solutions, and we have a coach here. You know, Date Me Solutions was founded on the idea of being a solution for single people, and so I have with me here Teresa Beshwate, and she has the sudden widow. And so here again, you have a solution for some of you singles that are going through some hard times. And she's going to give us, you know, some tips on that. And can you tell me a little background on how you came to have your company and what somebody can expect when they come to you?
Absolutely. I was a coach. My husband passed in 2012 very unexpectedly, and that's, like many people, launched me into the world of being widowed and trying to figure that out and navigate that without knowing very many widowed people and not having a guide or a mentor. And so many years later, I created my company, which is the Sudden Widow Coach. That refers to me, so that I could help widows apply the tools of life coaching to this unique widowed journey and create a way forward to reconstruct a life, rebuild a life that they can love again, and one that honors their late spouse. Sometimes that includes wanting to find a companion or a relationship or another marriage. Sometimes it doesn't. You know, I think that people think automatically that widowed means single, and that's something I want to share, that it does not necessarily mean that someone considers themselves single. So it's definitely something to ask. If you're interested in a widowed person, don't assume that they're single. And even if they do think of themselves as single, that may or may not mean that they want to date. So just some assumptions that I know were made about me that we want to be careful to not make about other people. Just ask, just ask.
You know, I have a behavior that I equate to singles, and wanting a soft landing, because as you know, men, a big percentage of them are in a relationship or married within that first year. And so can you talk to me about what kind of counseling you would do for somebody who's just lost somebody? Because, they tend to, it's like, I just want to put somebody else in that life. I want to plug them in, and I just want to go on.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure they need to deal with some feelings or something. And do you guide them through that?
Yes. I want to feel better, right? I want to numb this pain. This pain is horrific and unprecedented for most people. And I just want to feel better. Of course we do. And the primitive brain very much urges us to numb the pain. And sometimes our first thought about how to numb the pain is to have the attention of someone who is special to us, or is, that we're special too. We can rush into that because it feels a little bit better. It helps a little bit with the pain. It's not a true numbing agent, right? The only way through the pain is indeed straight through the pain. So it's often not the right solution to bring someone in order to numb the pain, right? Dealing with the pain is a whole other discussion, but we can't numb it. We can't avoid it. We can't resist it. We can try, and it will always be there waiting for us. it doesn't go away until we deal with it. It's like holding a beach ball underwater. We can do it for a while, but at some point, that beach ball does come up out of the water. Now, so my advice and where I coach people is about, are you ready? Let's get you ready. Let's get you to be the best possible version of you. That's the work first. And I'm sure you do that as well, Lynn, in your work, is be the best possible version of you and then add icing to a already very good cake. That's, I think, the way forward.
Now, when we first get single, in whatever reason we're single, we have the need to feel attractive again because, there's nobody validating us. And I would bet some of your services validate, someone to help them feel better about themselves. And are there any exercises or any tips that you have?
My best tip on that topic and on many topics is don't believe everything you think. You're right. We can't believe everything we think. Just because we think it doesn't mean that it's true, right? So we look in the mirror and we say, well, not as young as I used to be. I'm this age now. I have this wrinkle. The scale says this, right? I'm not the person I used to be, meaning I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough now. And no one will want me now. I can't even tell you how many brains, offer those thoughts. No one's going to want me now. My husband loved me when I was 20 and cute, skinny, and didn't have wrinkles. No one will want me now. So being onto that, hearing that record play in your brain and go, yeah, I'm not going to believe everything I think. That's the most important thing that we can all do on any topic, widowed, single, whoever we are.
One of the things I recommend with my coaching is, this is kind of two different, she's very specific.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, yeah, that word. I have my tongue tied and it's loose at both ends. Oh, I just lost it. How do you, I know, I got it back. Okay, exercise. What kind of other, to me, it's a cornerstone of regaining your health. Your physical health, your mental health. Does that play a part in, do you encourage that, or do you have other ways that you kind of try to build them up emotionally as well?
Yeah, I don't prescribe, I don't tell my clients what they should do. They will tell me what they think they would like to be doing, and we talk about, the benefits and pros and cons. Now, we can do any action out of self-disgust and self-loathing and make ourselves exercise, and as you know, Lynn, that's not going to be a long-term solution. So what we often talk about, if my client wants to eat healthfully, exercise more, whatever they want to be doing, is like, what would love do? What would love say? How can you love yourself first and then have the action of exercise, eating healthy, what have you, come from a place of loving yourself? And that's usually not what we want to do. We want to self-loathe ourselves and act out of disgust, and that just doesn't work. So the question,
I fell off of that wagon a lot of times.
Yeah,
During
yeah.
COVID, especially. I had my weight down. COVID came, and I had a surgery, and it was like a green light that I didn't have to watch what I was eating either. It was like I just pretended that I didn't have to watch it. So
you are not alone.
yeah.
You are not alone. The important thing is that the thoughts in our brains create how we feel, and from how we feel, that drives the actions that we take or do not take. So it's the opportunity is, how do we want to feel that would very naturally have us getting out for a walk or eating healthfully? What's the feeling? Well, it's probably motivated or intentional, purposeful, right? And then, okay, how do you, with your own thoughts, what thought for you creates motivation? Very naturally. It's a matter of choosing the right thought that creates the useful feeling that naturally drives the action that you want to be taking.
Now, what would you say if somebody became a widow last week? They're fresh. They're really hurting. You have some advice for that?
I would say, be resourceful, look around for resources that help you. If something doesn't help you, put it right back where you found it and keep going. Like, you're not, you shouldn't feel compelled to take all the advice on, because it doesn't all fit. It's not one size fits all. My blog can be useful. That's at thesuddenwidowcoach.com. And I would highly recommend Soaring Spirits International, which is a nonprofit organization for people who have lost their person, whether it was a spouse or a partner. They have newly widowed materials. They have programs and events that are either free or very affordable. And they're just a great resource for brand new widowed people.
So I guess you probably don't subscribe to people doing anything that is maybe legal, going into legalities, changing their home, making drastic decisions, or what do you think about that idea? I've heard that said.
Yeah, it's often said, and it seemed ironic to me because the minute my husband passed, there were loads of people looking at me to make decisions, and it never ends the first year. So you're constantly making decisions. And it's still true, if you can delay big decisions, it's a good idea to do that, right? And there's also the opportunity to grow our self-confidence, go from we to me, make decisions ourselves, and have our own back. So there's also that we need to learn as a solo person.
Now, is there a component when it comes to kids? How do widows deal differently, or is there a way that they need to deal differently with their kids? Or,
what I see most often is people postponing their own grief to be strong for the kids, to get the kids through, to tend to the kids' grief. And the thing about grief is it can't be fixed, but it needs to be tended to, our own grief, right? And then being the best possible version of ourselves for the kids too. So I would just offer, also tend to our own grief. Maybe that just means crying in the shower, but as best we can, tend to your own feelings. They wait somewhat impatiently, right? So when we lose control and we're crying in the grocery store, probably that feeling has been waiting and waiting and waiting and demanding our attention. And the minute we let our guard down, it's going to grab us. So, tend to your own grief as proactively as you can, and also think of the kids and do what you can to help with their grief.
now, do men and women handle their grief differently?
I think that it's such a good question. And as you pointed out, research shows that men do re-partner sooner than women. Us humans, we all have brains that offer us thoughts that may or may not be true and may or may not serve us. So we're very much the same in that way. It's true for all of us. And another universal truth, I think, is that we all make decisions based on our fear of feeling feelings. Like, oh no, I can't do that. I might be embarrassed, right? We let our fear of feelings dictate every decision we make. And that's true, I think, of both genders. And the truth for widowed people is you've already felt the very worst. A little embarrassment you can do.
Could you, what is your phone number, and how do people contact you? It's probably online or on the television, but could you go through that?
Yeah, I'm at thesuddenwidowcoach.com, and I can be reached at Teresa at thesuddenwidowcoach.com. And I have a blog there. I recently wrote a book, which is called Life Reconstructed. It'll be published next month. And a podcast coming soon. So hopefully lots of ways that my resources can reach people for free.
Now, your book, what drove that? I mean, this has been many years since your loss, and why now for the book?
Right, probably any author debates, maybe I should wait until I know more. But I guess every author just, at that moment, writes down what they do know. And that's what I just decided to do. My late husband swore I was going to write a book, and I would always tell him, no, of all the books that are written, what do I have to add? And he was right, wrote the book. And it's, again, the tools of life coaching applied to this unique and very dark widowed journey help us be onto our brains and chart our course forward. So it's called Life Reconstructed. It'll be out soon.
Well, great. Well, look for that. This is Central Valley Talk. This is Lynn Lasatovich, and I'm here with Teresa Beshwate. And thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Are we? Hello, I'm Lynn Lasso. Hi there, this is Lynn Lasatovich, and I'm at Hit Central Valley Talk. So excited to be here. At last we have some air that we can breathe. October the 6th, and we've got Lori Wilson, the executive director with the American Red Cross, and she has some things that she can tell us how the Red Cross not only serves people throughout the world, but the big differences that they're making right now in our community. Lori, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Did you, can you tell us what the mission for the Red Cross is?
So the mission of the American Red Cross is to alleviate human suffering in the face of an emergency through the power of volunteers and through the generosity of donors. We can't do any of the work we do without our volunteers, and certainly not without the donations that from the individuals and the businesses that support the work that we do.
Well, we've had some real big disasters here in the Central Valley, and the Red Cross, I understand that when the Red Cross comes in, you virtually wrap your arms around the people. You see to it that their needs for food and shelter and everything is taken care of. Could you tell us a little bit about what's going on in our area and how the Red Cross responds to that?
Sure. So most people think of the Red Cross, most people's first interaction with the American Red Cross is probably through a first aid, CPR, maybe it's a swimming class, as a youth, or it's through the donation of blood, right? So that's where most people interact with the Red Cross and what they think of the most. And then they think of the big things that they see on TV, the Hurricane Katrinas, Hurricane Maria, and all of the things that we see, and Ida that we just had, in the wildfires, the huge wildfires. So they think of us in terms of big disasters. But what most people don't understand or realize is the work we do every single day in our communities. We were founded on the battlefield over 140 years ago by Clara Barton, serving our military, making sure our service members were taken care of. We still do that today. Every single day, we receive calls and help with facilitate emergency communications between family members and their service members who are stationed abroad. We provide support and resources to our family members, our veterans, and our active duty. We respond on average here in the Central Valley to 2 to 3 fires a day of home fires, making sure that people who've lost their homes have a safe place to be while they figure out their next steps. In addition to that, we have the larger fires and the disasters that we all think of and know of and think of the Red Cross. Right now, of course, supporting the fires that are happening in Tulare County. We have volunteers from all over the valley, even some from the coast, who are stepping in to make sure that people have shelter and care. Our role is immediate relief, to make sure that people in the immediate hours after the disaster, whether it's a small home fire or a large disaster, have a safe place to go, food to eat, and receive the comfort that they need and the information that they need. And then we start working as things change to what's the next steps so that people can get their lives going again and begin that steps to recovery. And start working with our community and our community partners, because we do not do it alone. We can't do it alone. We work very closely with the community and other community partners and organizations to make sure people have access to the help that they need. So that's kind of the Red Cross in a quick nutshell.
I was really surprised to hear how many fires, even in our area, our community, the Central Valley, how many fires that we have a month on a regular basis.
And and it averages. Some months are busier than others. So like July, of this year we doubled what we did last July in terms of the number of home fires. And you hear about it on the news every day when they interview and talk to the fire department. So it's nothing new that we're hearing. The number of fires and the number of responses is increasing. I don't know the reasons for all of that. I just know that the need is there, and if we're called, we respond.
In Tulare, you had a special call out. You were looking for volunteers for anywhere, but what resonated with me is I was born here in Fresno. It resonated. Tulare's in our backyard, and that you guys needed lots of volunteers for there. And when I think of volunteers, I very often think, oh, well, the people in the shelter. But there's so much support staff and everything, and it doesn't mean that you have to maybe donate 2 weeks. Maybe it's hours. Can you tell us about that?
So when a disaster like the fires happen in our backyard that's happening in Tulare, if we open a shelter, we have to staff that shelter 24 hours a day. We have to make sure that the people are cared for. So that requires manpower, right? It requires people, and we don't ever let anybody, we always have a minimum of 2 people. We don't let people work alone. It's a safety issue, as well as just, being able to take care of people adequately. So that whenever that happens, our need increases. We also have people that are doing logistics, which is getting the stuff and distributing the stuff, making sure that we have that, arranging the transportation. We were getting emergency supplies for the people that, as evacuation orders were lifted, to some of the remote locations. So we had to bring volunteers in from Fresno to drive the emergency response vehicle into those mountainous areas to get those supplies there. So it might be doing that sort of thing. As we start getting into the next phase of this disaster, as evacuation orders lift and people begin recovery, and those who have lost homes or have severely damaged homes, working with them and the county to figure out what that recovery looks like and get them access to the resources that they need. So it changes, and the kind of work you can do and how much time you give can change. I have a volunteer who's working in the Emergency Operations Center, representing the Red Cross and making sure that we're planning with them. So there's opportunities like that. There's just so many different ways that you can help. Working with the Red Cross, when you talk about that 2-week, if you are trained and you are in a job and you decide you want to, say, go help in the hurricanes, so those folks who went to Hurricane Ida to respond, those folks go for 2 to 3 weeks. We don't send people for a day when you're from, or 2 days. The cost is too high, for one, and for two, we need to make sure there's consistency. So you'll go for 2 to 3 weeks. When it's in our backyard and we need to locate the response right here, and we need this help locally, and it's small enough that we don't bring in resources from outside of here, we start having to be a little bit more flexible with the scheduling. We would like a 12-hour shift, but if you just can't do it, having said all that, you can't just pick up the phone when the response is happening and say, okay, I want to be a Red Cross volunteer and work in a shelter, put me in there tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. We have to give you training, because shelters are not just a matter of setting up a cot for somebody to sleep on. There's many other factors that go into the planning and the organization, the structure, the safety, all the things that we have to think about, as well as trying to provide that comfort.
In your volunteers, we typically think of a shelter and think of people that would work there, or we may think, well, in my case, I help you with some of the speaking, but there's all sorts of tasks, and people may not think about the nursing part, the healthcare part. That's really important too, and I know you have a call out for that right now.
We do. So, like everybody across the country, nurses are in short supply, and in our shelters, we have to have nurses. We have to have a nurse or a EMT, somebody in health services, licensed person available in case something happens. So we have to either rely on our county partners for that, but if we can have Red Cross volunteer nurses that take that role, and what they do is just beyond monitoring to make sure people are okay, particularly people that might have health issues. if they've left their home in a hurry because of an evacuation and they left medication behind or durable equipment behind or things like that, our nurses help facilitate and get those things for them so that they have what they need. So our nurses are mental health volunteers. Disasters are very stressful. They're very traumatic. We have mental health volunteers that help work with. We have spiritual care volunteers that come in and help people just process and deal and manage the stress. And wildfires, this one, it goes on. And you're sitting there and you don't know. You don't know. Is your home okay? Isn't it okay? And so those volunteers, those specialized volunteers, they're essential to help people deal with that.
Well, I'd like to give a shout out. Any of you retired people that have skills in healthcare and any of these kinds of, or you can help with a shelter. We all have tasks. Some are great and some are skills, and some of us can do a lot, and some of us, like me, can help just a little.
Exactly. We will find a space for you to help, because we have people that come in and help with the front desk and answer phones. We have some with our fundraising staff is doing a mailing today. We have people that come in and help with mailings. We have youth volunteers. We have one volunteer that comes in once a week to make sure that the vehicles are taken care of, to make sure our vehicles are fueled, clean, and ready to go, and make sure that the maintenance is taken care of. There's all sorts of things you can do, whether you have a little bit of time or a lot of time. Of course, we will take everything you will give us. But we also don't ever want to burn people out. We have some people that want to do everything, right? And that's a real quick way to burn out. So let's start small. Let's start with what you really want to do and start building from there. And we can find a space. You would be really surprised, because the Red Cross, 90% of what we do is done by volunteers. We have just enough staff to make sure that the volunteers have what they need to have to do the job that they're volunteering to do.
Well, there you have it, folks. This is Lori Wilson, the Executive Director for the American Red Cross. She's really easy to work with. You have questions or issues, or call a Red Cross. Those people are very responsive. And
join the Red Cross family. We are a family. We might be a little dysfunctional sometimes, but we are a family, very much so. And it's a family of humanitarians, and that's the best way to be.
This is Central Valley Talk, and I'm Lynn Lasatovich, and this was brought to you in part by Date Me Solutions. So thank you for your part that you play, and all of the volunteers that are standing at your door right after we get out of here.
Yay!
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Aqua Nails Spa is the most luxurious nails and spa salon in Fresno, Clovis. Our staff are friendly, courteous, and highly skilled. Come in and let us pamper you. Located at 1398 Shaw Avenue in Clovis, California, on the southwest corner of Shaw and Sunnyside. Also located at 1850 Herndon Avenue, Suite 111 in Clovis, California. Have dents or dings that need to be removed from your car? Well, look no further. Here at Say Magnifique, we offer paintless dent repair, interior repair, windshield repair, wheel repair, scratch and automotive touch-ups. A new headlight restoration system guaranteed to never have your headlights dull again. Say Magnifique is a mobile business and will come to you. Reasonable rates guaranteed. Don't hesitate to call 559-704-7525. That's 559-704-7525. Say Magnifique, your one-stop auto body shop.
Hello, I'm Lynn Lasatovich, and I'm with Central Valley Talk. Today's October the 6th, and we finally can breathe the air that's outside. So that part is fun. We're here to, I have Janie Jukovic. Did I pronounce that right?
That's close enough.
She also goes by Janie J. I get that one a lot easier. So Janie's all about talking about how her life has changed and how she can help you to build a better life, help you through maybe some of the stumbling blocks that we had to go through so that you don't have to. Janie, you said that what I got from your book is which is typical, you kind of lost yourself after getting out of a long-term relationship.
Exactly.
And you had to, can you tell me about finding yourself?
Okay. I was in my 60s. My husband of a long time, 35 years, he left one day, and I basically decided to reinvent my life. I thought my life is in shambles. I'm tens of thousands of dollars in debt. I just started a new job as a real estate broker in commercial real estate. I had a big, expensive, my dream home. Finally, that was a big deal to me because we'd moved around for a lot of years with him being in the military. So I just said, you know, I'd been working and working so hard, and I just told myself, I cannot live the rest of my life like this. It's not doable. I'm going to burn out. I'm going to have a heart attack or something. And I didn't like working that hard. So I decided to figure out how to live my best life. And so I spent a lot of time reflecting and trying to figure that out. And as a result, I wrote my first book called Live the Life You Have Imagined, which is simple ways to start living your best life. And then I wrote another book about, it's called Single in 60, and that was about my personal struggle and getting through the divorce and figuring out life on my own. And it's kind of humorous. And if anybody knows or remembers Irma Bombeck, it's kind of like that. You know, funny instances of things that broke and me trying to fix them. And also it shows a will and determination of someone that will go alone. For instance, one time I remember when everything kept breaking at my place, I just sat in my car in the garage and cried, and I shouted out to God, if you are trying to tell me that I need a man in my life, I'm not going to do it. And I was like determined, you know, one more thing broke and I had to fix this and that, and it was at times it was pretty hard. And I mean, I was doing things like changing tires on the golf cart before I went to a business meeting for real estate, and I learned a lot of things like don't wear white pants and that kind of stuff. But so I write books to help encourage people to live their best life. And then,
and if I could butt in, she is a bestseller as of this week.
Yes, yes.
Another number one, isn't it?
Yes. Last week we launched my fifth book, this book, and it was on Kindle, and it made number one in at least 2 categories. And
Show us the little badge on it.
Oh,
yeah, there you go.
And
Yeah.
then yesterday we launched again for the paperback, and we got number one in at least 2 categories. So it's kind of different than my first books. This is the categories have to do with religion and spirituality, New Age. One's channeling, another one was past lives, another one was graphology, which means writing. I didn't know what that was. So what happened is on my journey of self-discovery, I spent a lot of time every day being quiet and trying to figure out answers. Because if you've been a workaholic like I was, I call it spiritually starved workaholic, you just don't ever have time to sit and think about, is there more to life? You know, you're so busy working and doing, you never have a chance to be a human being. And so I spent a lot of time doing that, and I was able to tap into my intuition, and I was able to become what I would call a channel between this realm and the spirit realm. And so I can tap into wisdom and guidance from that realm, that dimension, however you want to call it. And that was quite odd for me. I didn't know anything about that. So I was really afraid to tell anyone for a long time.
I was really surprised in your book that, you know, you talked about religion and you talked about God, and then you talked about other ways to referring to God, and I was surprised.
Right. Well, what I believe, and this is what I was told through my spirit guides, because again, I tapped into my intuition and I would hear these voices and they would give me guidance, and I started calling them my spirit guides. I didn't know people had that. It wasn't until later, and I Googled it and read other books, that everybody has spirit guides. They told me that, but I didn't believe them until I went and checked, and there's all kinds of books on spirit guides. But they told me that there's more than one way to God, and it doesn't matter what you call him or her, God, the universe, source, whatever. It's all the same thing. And the reason we have different religions, and the reason you have spirituality, which isn't necessarily a certain religion, is because different ways resonate with different cultures. If you think about it, if you grew up in the Middle East, then you're more, it's more likely that you'll be Muslim. And if you're, depending where you live in the world, or how you grew up, whether or not you're Catholic or Protestant or Jewish or whatever. But it doesn't really matter, because all religions teach the same things.
One of the things too that I find interesting, and I see that a lot of people, when they become single again, especially the older, how did you you recreated yourself?
Right. Well, I started by one of the things I found out when I wrote my first book is that women neglect self-care. And honest to goodness, I didn't know what self-care even was. I didn't realize that you needed to take care of yourself, because I grew up in the 50s, so we were taught that you take care of your family, and then, then we could work outside the home, so you could do that too, but you still had all your responsibilities at home. And there wasn't any such thing as a mommy time or me time. It was like, it was so far off my radar, it would not have even been, I wouldn't even have thought I was allowed to go get a pedicure or go to lunch with my girlfriends or go to a movie. It was like, well, there was always something to do. And I look back now and I laugh, because, it would be nothing for the men to go off and be gone all day Saturday to go play golf and drink. And then, the woman's home, taking 2 kids to soccer practice, cleaning the house, doing the grocery shopping and all that. Well, that was my life. So I learned that I needed to tap into self-care. And along the way, I, instead of being in my, I would call it male energy of business-like, making money and being real organized and all that sort of thing, I tapped into my femininity. So instead of wearing really plain clothes or just barely any makeup, or having really short plain hair and little tiny earrings and barely any lipstick, and wearing really sturdy old-fashioned clothes, that I thought, well, why not? I could do what I want, and I went out and bought all kinds of new underwear and flashier clothes, and started getting my hair done lighter and lighter, and I let it get long, and then I let it get short, then sometimes it's curly, and I decided that I like being feminine. So I really do look a lot different. And then I also lost 35 pounds, which may not sound like much, but I went from an extra large to a medium. So that's a big difference.
Right.
And then I got a lot more fit. I went
You're
to
a jogger now.
Right. I actually, I went to a boot camp a few years ago and got in shape. And then I started jogging, and a friend recruited me to what they call it a master's level running group, which just means it's people over 50. And I ran with them, and they talked me into going to meets. And 2 years ago, I went to the National Senior Games in track and field, and I placed in the top 10 in the nation in 2 events. And that might not sound like much, but it was a lot of work. I mean, I'm talking running 20 to 30 miles a week in practice. Wow. But most of the people you're competing with, they ran track in high school or college. I never did any of that. I played tennis for a couple of years in high school. That was it.
Now, you have a new book that's going to be, you're working on other books.
Right. I have lots of books in process, but I've been in real estate for the last 25 years, so I had to cut down my responsibilities being a property manager and then quit being a real estate broker so that I could focus on the books. So the reason that I wrote this book, The Unimagined Awakening, was because of the next book, because the next book is a big book. It's the entire book was channeled. And that means that I sat quietly and they call themselves ascended masters, which means they're more evolved beings in a higher dimension. They dictated the whole book to me. And it is all about why we're here and all the lessons we are to learn. So it's 100 lessons that we are supposed to learn while we're here. And I was told that during my lifetime, this would be my mission to transcribe these books, get them published, and to go out and teach it, and of course live it, because that's part of, you got to do is you want to teach people what to live that way, not just do what I say. And they told me there would be 3 discourses. So interestingly enough, just a month or so ago, I started getting the downloads for the second volume, and I'm more than halfway done with that.
You've become quite a prolific author.
Oh, I just sit and do it all day.
Right. Thank you for coming on Central Valley Talk, and I'm excited about your journey, many journeys, and do you have a closing? Anything to say in
Yeah,
closing?
I'd like to say, if you want to know more about this, my women's website, the one to encourage women, is www.janiej.net. And if you want to know about the more spiritual stuff, you should go to www.thenewiammovement.com. And I have videos and blogs and that sort of thing, so you can find out more about what this journey is.
You have a teaching series too, don't you have DVDs or something in there?
I have 2 online courses right now. One is about, called Positivity Reboot, and the other one is Cheat Your Way to Better Habits. The other thing I'd like to mention is you can go to YouTube. I have a couple of YouTube channels, but the one that I would encourage people to go to the most is Janie J. Soul Connector. And there'll be little snippets in there of what is in the upcoming book, which is called The New I Am Document, Volume 1. And you can kind of see what these little lessons are that we're supposed to learn. I thought they were pretty entertaining and give you a different perspective on things in life, because often we think that we exist alone, and we don't. We're actually all connected.
We really enjoyed this today. We've learned so much. And again, this is Central Valley Talk. I'm Lynn Lasatovich. Here we are with a renowned author. Check her out, folks. She's come a long, they say, you've come a long way, baby.